Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mental Health Matters with your host, Dr. Matt Gloviak. Today, I am honored to bring back special guest Molly Donovan, who is a special education coordinator. And today, one of the things that we're going to talk about is a hot topic for many parents, students, and so on, who are concerned about school starting up here just in the next following month. So what's going on? Are we going to be meeting in person for school? School going to be online? Are we doing hybrid programs? How are the children protected? So many different thoughts that are going on in the backs of people's minds right now. And ultimately, we're concerned, is it safe? So as an educator, I'm wondering, what are some of the thoughts just going on in your mind right now as we consider reopening the schools here for the fall?
Oh, goodness. Well, everything that you just said.
Blanketed question, right?
Teachers, educators, families, students that are coming back to the school, we are all thinking all of those things all at once. We all want to get back into the schools. For many of us, we haven't been there since my last day was March 13th in person. We are so ready to go back and work with our students and see our families. But then that huge question is it safe? What precautions are going to be made in all of the buildings? Should I send my student full time? Should I send them to the hybrid part-time model? Should they stay at home? So all of those things are just running through everyone's minds, I think, on every aspect.
Oh, absolutely. And it's almost like we have this little battle, if you were, between physical health and not wanting to get sick, contract COVID-19, and potentially infect other people versus mental health, social health, everything that's encapsulated with that, from being cooped up for so long, not seeing people all the time, wanting to return to our normal routine and so on, what's actually worse? It's like contracting the virus or all the negative mental health implications that come with quarantining ourselves and all the stuff in between. Because it is definitely a time of uncertainty and, yes, it would be something that would be great for people to go back. We go back to school, for a lot of parents, their lives can return to normal. I know in the last episode we talked about what it looked like being a parent with young children at home and so on. They can return back to their normal routine. The children, again, they could see their friends, they can learn in the classroom, see their teachers, engage in all sorts of creative activities, very exciting types of things. But again, is it safe? And what types of precautions do we need to be able to put in place to ensure that individuals do feel safe going into this? But I could say with fair certainty that I don't think, regardless of what type of situation we come up with, unless it's 100% online, where individuals are going to feel 100% safe from the virus.
Yeah, and I think just because from the news and um, the health departments and the Illinois State Board of Education, things change all the time because we're learning about this virus. It's so new to everyone. And we come up with these great plans and what we want to do to keep everyone safe, and then we find a little bit more out about this virus, and then we need to kind of change our plans, and I think that's what have a lot of families worried, is that things do keep changing as we learn more about the virus and how to educate students and keep them safe at the same time. Um, as an educator, we definitely know that being in school is not the same as remote learning. We're missing out on that huge social and emotional learning piece, and having students interact with each other and experience all of that in their day. And they're definitely not getting that in that remote setting. But we also want to keep everyone safe, um, through this time.
Absolutely, and there is something about the face-to-face type of interactions that we have with other individuals. There's something powerful about like physical touch, physical engagement, being together with one another, not just having that computer screen between the two of us. Now, I do think that having Zoom meetings, Microsoft Teams, Ring Central, all these different types of things that we use as adults to have work meetings and so on. Yeah, they're pretty great for the kids to be able to see one another. One of the things I notice, with my own children, the second that the meeting ends, where are my friends? I want to play with them. I want to go and I want to build a tower of blocks and so on. Nothing can really replace that.
Mm-hmm.
So what's happening right now is the children are missing a huge piece of social development. And that gets me thinking later on in life, that whole saying, it's not what you know, but who you know. And, I'm a person it's a combination of what you know and who you know that's going to really help propel you on later on in life. And I see so many people who are highly intelligent individuals, very successful and so on, but they really struggle interpersonally, and that's one of the big challenges here. So right now, education wise, I do feel pretty confident, and I teach higher education. I teach graduate students online in my work, and that, for that population that, they're self-sufficient, independent, are able to learn online and be able to check the stuff out. But for a little child, this is new. I mean, they may be able to function on an iPad, press buttons, drag a triangle into the triangle, the square into the square, and so on. But to be able to fully manage a classroom that is online for the child, that's pretty difficult, and that may be compromising some of the educational experience. But even further, that social development piece, which is so critical at this age, it really is. Being able to have the children interact with one another, speak to one another, resolve conflict accordingly, be team members together, and all this type of stuff. We're missing that. So trying to think, what is one of the best, safest ways, perhaps, to be able to reintegrate back into the schools here? And I know, again, ideas are up in the air. We have no idea what's happening. It changes every single day. But what are some thoughts, perhaps, that you have that might be a safe reintegration?
Well, a lot of schools are looking towards doing kind of that hybrid learning. So, going to school a couple days a week, maybe depending on their last name,
Okay.
and then also doing some of the remote learning in conjunction with going in person. And that would help with reducing the class sizes. They don't want to have a lot of students in the classroom so that they can keep the students and the staff safe. Um, I think practicing wearing masks at home, because all students would need to then wear the mask when they go to school. So just practicing it, and I know it's even a practice for me. I wear my mask when I go out, but then when I'm at home, I don't. And since I've been home all this time, I find myself even after about 30 minutes in a grocery store thinking, oh my gosh, I can't wear this mask. So
It's
I'm going to
hard.
be working on increasing my ability to also wear the mask for longer periods. Um, Talking about good hand washing skills, hand sanitizer if you can't get to a sink to wash your hands, wiping down your backpack when you come home from school, and washing your hands as soon as you come in. A lot of districts are putting some information out about how you can be safe on the bus, how you can be safe in the classroom, what parents and families can kind of work on before they go to school. A lot of districts are having different webinars that parents can participate in so they can understand their options of coming back to school or doing remote learning, and what that would look like for each of those programs, and then also the measures that the districts are taking to follow the state guidelines and keeping everyone safe.
Some really great points in there, and I'm going to try to break this down a little bit because you said some things I hadn't even initially thought about. But taking a look at the hybrid program, I've heard a lot of different things about that as well. Like you said, split the students up based off last name. Maybe doing something where they come in physically twice a week, or like, okay, this group's Monday, Wednesday, the other one's Tuesday, Thursday. They do the rest of the instruction online. So with that being said, like we are right now, have desks at least 6 feet apart, wearing the masks. I know schools are thinking of doing temperature checks before students come in, asking whether or not they're sick, doing additional testing, so on and so forth. And that type of measure, again, is it 100% safe? Well, it's not. So we can't say for certain it's going to be 100% safe, but that's definitely something that puts some safeguards in place and at least does allow for some normalcy, if you will, and significantly does reduce the risk by having less people around. So, we have the students to half capacity in the classroom, have them spread out in distance. You can do a day thing. I've heard some schools are thinking of doing an AM PM type of a situation. Some schools are allowing the parents to be able to make the choice. You want your child to come in? Do you want to do online? Do you want to do hybrid? all this type of stuff. And I know to this moment, again, a lot of that is really up in the air and we're unsure as to what direction that's going to go. But I am pleased to know that the different school districts and so on are talking about it. Now, you touch upon something I think is fantastic, and I really want everybody watching this to really think about too. The mask wearing, like you said, you have a young child, and I would even say for a teenager, adolescent, because think of how annoying it is, for us, as adults to be able to wear these masks. Like you said, a half hour in the store, you want to take it off, or sometimes I'll be in the store and I'm driving halfway home, realize I have it on, I'm like, and I just want to rip it off and throw it to the ground. Why is it there? But for a little child, it can be hard to wear that. You don't want to wear it, and I think it is a really great idea to practice having that on, really getting into the routine of that. Like you said, hand sanitizer, hand washing, and so on. A lot of children, you can go there, they, hit the soap, rinse it for a second and then just walk along. But we really need to teach them what's effective hand washing, using hotter water, singing Twinkle Twinkle Little Twinkle Twinkle Little Star twice while you're washing your hands, or Happy Birthday twice, that type of thing, to learn how to thoroughly be able to wash your hands. As you stated, wiping down the book bag and things like that, really being able to practice measures of not jumping on top of your friends, or taking their food and putting it in your mouth, all that type of stuff that normally children take for granted. Prepping them as best as possible going into it. And I really love that suggestion that you have, because I think that's one of those things too that maybe a lot of parents really haven't thought about, because we're so stressed out trying to manage the work-life balance at home, wondering what's going on. Are our kids going back? Are they not? What do I do with work? Or where am I going to send my kids, and so on? Do I have an appropriate internet connection to be able to do this hybrid thing? So all that's on our mind. But at the same time too, with us not knowing what's going on, there is a likelihood that children will be returning into the schools in one way, shape, or form. So we need to be able to prepare them as best as possible, and I like that. Do you have any other thoughts in terms of like little preparation things at all?
I think a good thing also to talk about the temperature checks, because that is part of the guidelines, that everyone getting on a school bus or entering a school building, staff, students, will have to have their temperature taken. And they do ask a question, if you have any of those symptoms that they're looking for, as far as maybe COVID symptoms or just a sickness that you're experiencing, just so they can alleviate that before anyone is exposed. So just saying, they're going to check your temperature. Your things are going to be a little different when you go back to school. You're not going to go back to this school the same way that it was. Maybe even look at there's a lot of social stories online. If you don't want to just come up with your own social story, sometimes I look at social stories online, paid teachers. You can Google social stories about, there's a lot of books out there even for students to talk about COVID and different things. And it's not going to be the same, but it's still your school, and things will look different, but your teacher is still there for you, and your school community is still there for you. Talking about you might have to be a little farther away from your friends in the classroom. Your desk might be a little bit farther away. Just giving them kind of an idea, because when they left in March, they left school the old how it was the old way, and so everything looks different. There might be a certain hallway you have to walk down, and I think kids like to kind of know what's going to happen, and maybe have an idea, and would feel comfortable knowing that they're going to see some different things go on, and it's to keep everyone safe, and just having those talks with their children so that they feel comfortable when they go.
Having honest communication, informing your children of what the changes are going to look like, and that's really important. And that's one thing that I do like to stress as well when I'm working with parents in varied capacities, and that we have to use a filter when we're speaking with our children, but at the same time too, we don't want to keep them in the dark. Clearly there's something terrible that's going on right now. Clearly there's a lot of changes that are going on right now. People are stressed out. And the less informed the children are about it, the more stressful it is. Because what is one of our greatest fears? It's a fear of the unknown. That's how people develop anxiety disorders and so on, because we don't know what's happening in the future. And Grant, there's a lot of uncertainty, but if we can explain as best as possible with what we know, and these are the measures that are taking place, and we start preparing our children, especially right now as we're shooting this episode, it's the middle of July. I know a lot of schools will be starting about a month from now, taking the time to actively prepare your child and have these conversations, and like you said, with the social stories, really getting them acquainted with what's going on. How are other children feeling about this? How are other families dealing with it? How are teachers dealing with it, and so on, goes a really long way. So with that being said, I think the worst thing you could really do is not prepare your child at all, not have a conversation about it, and really catastrophize what's going on. We've talked a lot about the children. As an educator, I'm wondering, what are some of the concerns on your end, whether it's you or some of the other teachers at your school? Like, what types of concerns are you hearing from the faculty end of things?
Some concerns that I've been hearing, and also concerns that I have for myself,
Mm-hmm.
would be, is the building clean enough? What are they doing to keep everyone clean and safe when we go into these buildings? And, a school building in any given day can have hundreds of people travel through. And I think that's what is scary to a lot of staff and faculty, is just the amount of different people that you could come in contact with. I think we're fearful that one of our students could possibly get sick, and the fact that they could just be sick, or that we could potentially lose a student, is very hard to think about as an educator, as well as a coworker. Thinking about coworkers that might have some of those pre-existing conditions. I know that they're afraid to come back because they're worried about their health, or they're worried about someone at their home that they could bring this home to. So I think as educators, a lot of us were nurturers, and we don't want our school community and our school families, we don't want anyone that we know to get this, and we wouldn't want it to be passed around in our classroom or in our conference room. Or so I think that we kind of bear a lot of that weight in keeping everyone safe in our buildings.
I definitely hear you. And one of the things I'm hearing here is that, as educators, you're nurturers. You really want to provide the best type of environment for the children. You want to see them grow. You want to see them succeed. You want to see them do well. You want them to have strong familial ties and so on. But having them come in knowing they're at risk, you're at risk, that is stressful. Or having a child who comes up to you, has a runny nose, and I don't know if I'm feeling very well, I don't feel well. And normally you just go through, console, refer to the nurse, and so on, and be able to do everything you can every step of the way. But in here now there's a question: is this the common cold, or is this COVID? Am I going to get sick? How much should I really interact with this student? You have children who have additional needs, who can use some additional support in terms of tutoring and stuff like that. How close will I get with the student? How much time should I really spend with this individual? Again, because I'm risking my health. There are also other people in my family, and like you stated, we have vulnerable populations, individuals who are autoimmune suppressed, individuals who are the older population. Again, we're seeing infants are another vulnerable population right now, and it seems like more and more, at least once a week over the past couple of months, I'm hearing, hey, children are at greater risk than we really think they are, and how it complicates other types of conditions that can be going on, and so on. So there is a lot of risk that is involved with this. I'm wondering, in terms of strategies, like what types of things can educators do to be able to ease their mind a little bit going into the school, being unsure of who's going to necessarily be coming in, are the conditions of the building clean enough, and so on.
Well, a lot of districts have just released their plans the last week or so, and they're even updating them as they release them, as things change and numbers of COVID cases increase. I think familiarizing yourself with the plan that is on the Illinois State Board of Education, familiarizing yourself with your district's plan. They have posted all of their plans to keep staff and students safe on their district website, so you can find those on there. Following the protocols as far as wearing your face mask, washing your hands, using hand sanitizer, trying to keep your 6 foot social distancing, although with students, and especially the students in my school, they're 3 to 5, and they don't have social distancing boundaries at all. So that will be a definite teaching process, and that's something maybe families can also talk to their younger learners about, is just, you can't run and hug Miss Molly.
Hmm.
You can give a hand wave, or maybe like an elbow bump, but it's hard for our younger learners. They like to hug their friends, and they like to hug
Absolutely.
their teachers, and it's not that we want to discourage them from that, or make them feel bad. We just want them to know that right now it's just not safe to do that, and that's another kind of teaching moment that we'll have to do both at home and in the classroom, so that everyone kind of keeps their distance.
Absolutely, it's going to be quite the adjustment because again, children do like interacting with one another, and one of the things that I would, anticipate being, phased out, limited, or adjusted is going to be physical education classes. You have children playing dodgeball, whipping balls at one another, flying into one another, playing basketball, trying to defend one another, all these different types of sports, weightlifting and so on, doing the bench press and somebody spotting you, that's a little bit close distance. So all those types of things, PE is a favorite class for a lot of kids, not going to necessarily get that. Considering recess, great, it's outdoors, you can play outside and so on. But again, what types of games are kids playing? They're playing tag, they're, building human pyramids, or whatever types of stuff, they really do. There's a lot of physical interaction there. So being able to keep them distant, it definitely poses a challenge. And I'm wondering, and want to go to your specialty area, working with children who have different special needs, what types of additional considerations do you have for that population?
So some of the students that we work with are medically fragile, and we have reached out to those families to see if they were interested in looking at remote learning due to their different medical needs that they had. They would be more susceptible to things that would be going around in the school environment. We also have a lot of students with sensory needs, and have a very difficult time with anything on their body, let alone like a facial mask.
Hmm.
And so we anticipate that several students will come back with doctor's notes saying that they would be excluded from the face mask policy, just because they couldn't tolerate that. I don't know. It's just, it's kind of up in the air. We have students that are very hands-on, that need that, that will walk up to you and rub their snot, or I
And
mean,
this is real,
this is what it
absolutely.
is.
It is what it is,
And
absolutely.
they need assistance in the bathroom, so diapering and changing, and it's something that I know that runs through the parents and the educators' minds constantly, in dealing with students that might even have additional needs, or where you have to work one-on-one with a student. And if you're 6 feet apart, it's hard to keep a student focused and on task and really work with them. Usually they're working at a table with a teacher, and they're not 6
Oh,
feet
especially
apart.
if you're writing, you're
Yeah.
learning letters, here we are all far. I
Uh-huh.
mean, it would be pretty commonplace, help guide the pencil to be able to write the letter and so on. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you, like sharing and highlighting some of these concerns because I know that you do specifically, work with children with special needs, but, every single school across America has a population of students with different special needs who are going to be in the schools. And it's imperative that we do think of these types of considerations. And I've definitely seen different things, whether it's out in public or some of the stuff I've seen schools doing. And, like I said, earlier, seeing desks, you have the tape on the floor, they're 6 feet apart. I've seen things where there's like a plastic or glass screen around the desk to be able to separate the students. So if they're not wearing a mask, they cough, it goes, directly into the, plexiglass or what have you. Or the instructor standing in front has the first 3 rows of the class empty so that everybody's kind of far. So all these different types of measures. But, again, in the bottom line, what I'm really concerned about here is that all these different types of things, there's always the opportunity for something to happen at any time.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
that's when the anxiety really lies for people.
Well, and also putting all these barriers between educators and students, I do think can impact their social and emotional development.
Absolutely.
You can talk with me, but you have to be 6 feet away,
Mhm.
or don't come too close, or we need all these barriers. And I think to a point, especially the younger learners that don't understand maybe why we're doing all these things, even with a lot of explanation, I think can impact their social and emotional needs and those getting met.
So what are some of the ways that we can think of, to be able to address the social and emotional needs of everybody in the best way possible? Big question, right? I would say, one of the first things that I really think is important is, acknowledging the way that you feel. In front of the class, and again, I know we teach completely different populations, but start off, in these times of uncertainty, I'm struggling right now. There are days I wake up where I feel depressed. I do feel anxious more than normal. My fuse might be a little bit shorter. And I want you to know that I'm here with you, being able to talk about that type of thing. So having that open, that honest communication, not lying about things, saying, oh, it'll be all right. Oh, nobody's going to get sick if we take this precaution, that type of thing. Because again, I'm being forthright, I'm being honest with you. I'm going to do everything possible to make it a safe situation, but I can't guarantee it. I like those types of things. Any concluding thoughts along those lines?
I think maybe just making sure that you're checking in with each of your students each day, whether it's virtual or in person, and also checking in with your families to see how they're doing at home. And it gives you an idea of maybe the struggles that they're having at home and how they're coping.
Absolutely. And also checking in with yourself. You more than anybody knows if something is going on wrong internally. Your trusted loved ones, people in your life, maybe they're noticing things going on. So really being real with yourself and doing a full check with that. And if you notice that anything doesn't feel right, it's important to be able to speak to a trusted loved one or speak to a professional. Thank you again so much, Molly, for being a guest on the show. It's truly been an honor having you here. And to all of you who are watching, I sincerely appreciate you checking in with Mental Health Matters. Again, if you would like, feel free to check us out on Facebook, Mental Health Matters with Dr. Matt Gloviak. We'll have all of our videos on there, different articles and things like that. I always appreciate your likes, comments, feedback, and so on. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or have any questions or comments for me personally, please feel free to send me an email to dr.mgloviak@gmail.com. And also, we have a new website, so check us out at www.mentalhealthmattershow.com. Again, thank you very much, and I hope you stay well.